Hey there, A's Day fans. Welcome to our Monday edition of our show. Hope each and every one of you had a great weekend, feeling recharged and ready to have a productive week. I'm your host, Joe Grad. I want to thank you for tuning in to our Monday edition of A's Day. Today is Monday, October 27th. We got a good show for you. Going to break down a couple of scenarios for you. So first, we'll start off the show. We have heard some MLB trade rumors about one of the top-end right-handed pitchers in baseball. Hunter Greene of the Cincinnati Reds is rumored to potentially be on the trade block to aid the Reds in improving their offense. So for the first half of today's show, we are going to get to know who Hunter Greene is, along with writing out a trade proposal that could potentially land his services. He is one of the premier and up-and-coming arms in baseball, so we'll have an interesting conversation around that. And then we wanted to have fun since we are in the midst of the World Series. Like I mentioned, the A's aren't competing, but as a baseball fan, watching the World Series year in and year out is always a wonderful tradition. So staying in the World Series spirit, we did a brief scenario overviewing what the roster would look like, some lineups, some key decisions as if the A's would be taking on the Dodgers in this year's World Series. We'll break it down. We'll explain it as we go. Just trying to have some fun during this off season, keeping us plugged in and ready for the sights and sounds of spring training as the A's are ascending into a team of promise with lots of hopes and expectations to come in 2026. But until then, let's get to today's edition of A's Day and keep us grounded throughout the offseason and have some fun talking A's baseball. Holy Toledo, let's go A's. All right there, A's Day fans. Thank you again for kicking off your week with us here at A's Day. We appreciate each and every one of you continuing to hear our thoughts and creativity around everything athletics baseball. Before we get into today's show, just want to give a reminder of where you can continue to find A's Day. First, our audio edition episodes are available and continue to be available on your favorite podcast audio outlet, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, iHeartRadio, so many more. If you type in A's Day, more than likely we will appear. Wherever you find us, continue to like, subscribe, download. Every little bit helps us continue to grow to reach our mission of being able to transition into a full-time organization. That is our mission, to go hand in hand with attempting to be a positive addition to aiding and growing the games to new heights. So appreciate each and every one of you continuing to listen. Tell your friends. Also, be sure to check out our content on our social media platforms, on Instagram at A's Day Baseball Podcast, on X, formerly known as Twitter, at A's Day Baseball. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel with all of our baseball content. A's Day Podcast will have the green logo just like you see behind my shoulders, because we do have the video editions of our episodes uploaded on our YouTube channel as well. And to become an official subscriber of A's Day, be sure to check out our Patreon site, patreon.com/A's Day. For just $2 a month, you'll be entered to win monthly A's Day t-shirts, A's autograph memorabilia, future A's game tickets, and so much more as we are able to grow this platform collaboratively. Okay, without further ado, let's get into our first topic discussion, and let's look at what a trade for Hunter Greene would look like. So last week, this is the time of year when trade rumors start to circulate, especially on those teams that are on the outside looking in. They're no longer playing. That is 28 out of the 30 teams now. So as we get closer and closer to the official start of the offseason, there's going to be a lot of these rumors starting to circulate, and it'll grow more and more as we get into the winter months. But it was very interesting that Former Reds GM Jim Bowden, who's now with The Athletic, commented on the trade rumors, saying that it would be a mistake for the Reds to trade Greene, but you can't deny that the rumors, there's some factuality there because due to the volume of the rumors. So it sounds like it's not coming from just a couple of sources. It sounds like there's a lot of talks about the Reds potentially putting up Hunter Greene on the trade block. Now, one reason he believes, talking about Bowden of The Athletic now, that the Reds would be up for shipping him in a trade is durability. During his 4-year career, he has not surpassed 27 starts or anything over 160 innings. In fact, he's coming off a season in 2025, while when he was available was absolutely dominant, but he did make a career-low 19 games started due to this year being one of battling injury. So Bowden is of the firm believer, though, that this is such a talented right arm. It would be a mistake for the Reds to give up on him, especially, the Reds, they did just get into the playoffs in the last weekend of the regular season, but nevertheless, you see this franchise seems to be trending in the right direction. They have a surplus of arms, and their issue is trying to find more depth in their lineup. Totally understand that. So I could see where a trade in that aspect would make sense for the Reds to do that, to be able to maybe get an outfielder, a utility guy, maybe a middle infield bat, third baseman, something like that. But I don't know. I don't think it would be Hunter Greene if I were the Reds. He's 26 years old. He's, just about to reach the peak of his strength as a person. So you imagine that these are going to be, you're entering in the best years of his career potentially. And the fact that he's able to have this kind of start to his career with pitching in a hitters-friendly park at home, it's got to speak at least to some magnitude of what quality a pitcher Greene can have. I know that's been an area Cincinnati's been searching for years, is getting solidified pitching. They finally have it. They have the depth with Greene being the lead horse of that group. I would be very surprised if they moved on to him but they would get a huge haul in return. So that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. And before I go further along, I know this is an A's podcast, and as a reminder, we do have our Bases, Barrels, and Ball Players podcast too as well, because I am truly an all-around baseball fan, so love talking about all 30 teams and organizations and all the great players in this game. So go give us a listen there as well. But the reason why we're bringing this guy here is because this episode is going to be about the A's aligning with the Reds as a potential trade partner here. But before we get into those scenarios, if you're not super familiar, which this guy only has 4 years in the major leagues, you may not be, being in a smaller market, let me tell you a little about him. So he is a native of Los Angeles. He is 26 years old, like I mentioned. He stands 6'5" in frame, right-handed pitcher. He was a 2024 All-Star selection and finished top 10 in Cy Young Award voting. If you look at the back of his baseball card, 91 games started, 25-29 win-loss record with a 3.65 ERA. He has logged 495 and 2/3 innings pitched, 617 strikeouts, 179 walks, and a 1.14 WHIP. For the 2025 campaign, he did make that career-low 19 starts due to battling injury, like I mentioned earlier in the show. 7-4 win-loss record with a 2.76 ERA and 107 and 2/3 innings pitched. He struck out 132 batters and only allowed 26 walks and pitched to a .93 WHIP. Little fun fact about Hunter Greene: he does have a couple of hidden talents off the field. He does have a strong passion for painting and playing the violin too as well. We love hearing about our athletes being well-rounded individuals too as well. Sounds like he would be an interesting person in MLB to talk to and interview. Dropping a line here: Bases, Barrels, and Ball Players. We would love to have Hunter Greene on. We'll find a way to try to get in contact with his team and make that happen. But anyway, that'll be for another day and another podcast hosted by yours truly. But back to the topic of hand, let's get to learn a little bit more about Greene between the lines. He works with mainly a 4-pitch mix. He utilizes his fastball the most at a 54.2% clip, followed up by his slider at 35% percentage used, a split finger at 10.8%, and a curveball 0.1%. So basically, he features that one every now and again. His fastball velo was that he averaged and carried throughout the entirety of his availability during the 2025 season was one of the best in baseball. He averaged 99.5 miles an hour on his fastball, which is in the 99th percentile of all qualifying pitchers, according to Baseball Savant. He maxed out with his fastball at 102.2 miles an hour. Absolute gas. He's a high strikeout guy, being able to generate chase. A 31.4 K percentage, which is in the 93rd percentile of all qualified pitchers, and a 32.4 chase percentage, which is in the 89th percentile, and a 31.4 whiff percentage, which is in the 90th percentile. So he makes a knack of getting strike three via the swing and miss or via the K and getting them to chase a little bit out of the zone because of the depth to his pitches and the way he tunnels and just attacks, that if he gets just even a couple inches off the outside or inside, whatever the case may be, he's going to be able to get hitters to try to bite on those pitches that have such strong movement, making Greene's repertoire even more effective. On his fastball, that is his best pitch by far. Opponents on the year batted 199 on the year. His highlight of the year, I would say, was when he completed a complete game, one hitter against the Cubs on September 18th. He allowed only one hit and one walk, so only two batters reached. He was one hit allowed away from a no-hitter and two batters reached away from a perfect game. So absolute elite stuff. That was in the midst of when the Reds needed to win as many games as possible. So that last 2 weeks of the regular season was kind of like the postseason for the Reds, and Greene absolutely delivered on the biggest stage and got an opportunity to start in LA, back in his hometown against the Dodgers during the wild card round this year. Greene certainly seems to be someone that is on the ascend. The only worry that I have about him is his overall health. He does seem to have battled injuries throughout a lot of his career. But when he is available, he does have some of the best stuff amongst the greats in this game. He is top of the rotation, top talent. When available, he's one of the tougher right-handers. I think if he's available, as a general manager, you at least have to inquire. So as a general manager, some factors that you're going to need to factor in when you're trying to compile your trade package. One, this is going to be a high value. So this is someone that when you bring in Greene, you're getting someone that's just entering his prime, but also it's very team contract friendly. He is signed through the 2028 season. So if you do land him in a trade, you have Greene for the 2026 season, 27 and 28. And at the end of his deal, there is a club option for 2029. So you got to imagine that Greene is going to increase his value over the course of the remainder of his contract. He's going to become more of an established pitcher in the rotation as well. He's going to continue to sharpen his craft. Like I mentioned, he's just getting into his prime, so we haven't even seen the best version of him yet, but he is that type that I believe is ascending in a positive direction. So with him only being 26 years old, this could be someone that is a cornerstone in your rotation for the next 10 years, 8 to 10 years at worst. Obviously, you're going to have to rework a contract or give him a contract by the 2028-29 deadline. But until then, if you're a team that's kind of on the brink, or if you're a team that maybe is one piece away as well, this could be the kind of guy that can help you bolster forward, but then also be able to continue to build your team, because he is going to be, in terms of hit against the cap, it's going against the luxury tax, he's going to cost very little compared to what his value truly is. He's set to make approximately around $39 million over the course of the next 3 seasons. For some reason, it seems like only 24 or 26 of it count against the luxury tax. So that is going to be a very team-friendly contract, hence why the Reds are going to be asking for a lot in this situation. What the Reds would be looking for here, so I believe they would be looking for 1 to 2 top prospects. They would be looking for 1 to 2, probably 2 major league ready bats. So if I had to guess, it would be an infielder, so whether that's second base, third base, and an outfield bat too as well, and then 1 to 2 mid-level prospects. So this is going to be 1-2 players. Maybe the Reds would do like Greene and a mid-level prospect for 2 major league ready bats and 2 to 3 pretty significant prospects. It's going to take a lot, in my opinion. This is a pretty unique trade, and I know you're sitting there wondering, Are you really going to sell the farm for one pitcher that has some injury history? That's why you wonder. This is all hypothetical. And this is just having a conversation as a general manager, seeing if it is the best fit for your team or not. I do believe that the A's could match up as a pretty good trade partner here. Now, I know there has been some talk that the A's are going to look to at least explore the second base and third base markets, but I do think they have some guys in-house that there is a little bit of depth there, and especially in their outfield, I do think there is a bat or two available that the A's could swap along with some prospects that they would have to part with to land a guy like Greene in a trade. But I do think the A's do have enough depth there that they could get this done. And I know there's going to be plenty of trade suitors out there that may have more valuable pieces, but I'm doing this just from the perspective of the A's and what a potential trade could look at landing this big fish. So here's the trade offer that I came up with. Athletics acquire Hunter Greene and Mason Morris, who is, I believe, their 15th prospect. He's a relief pitcher from the Cincinnati Reds in exchange for J.J. Bleday, Zach Geloff, Henry Bolt, who's the number 5 prospect, Tommy White, who's the number 7 prospect, and Mason Barnett, the number 9 prospect. So in this trade, like I said, I do think with the talent that Hunter Greene does provide, I do think there are going to be other teams that can make juicier trade proposals at the end of the day, just being honest. But I don't think this would be a terrible one for the A's to put forth. And I wonder what GM David Forst would have in mind. Would love to have a conversation with him about it. Not sure if that would be in the MLB legality parameters, but definitely would just love to shop with him sometime or anyone in management to see if this would be a deal that the Reds would jump at or would even be in the ballpark of landing someone from like Greene, or if this would be too much to give up. And even, hey, A's Day fans, sound off in the comments. I'm always here to talk baseball. I'm here to talk A's baseball for sure, and would love to hear your thoughts. If you think this would be a good trade that would more benefit the A's, better benefit the Reds, or maybe be a better mutually beneficial trade. This is just something we came up with. But my mindset here, Cincinnati gets 2 Major League ready bats. They get J.J. Bleday and Zach Geloff. So this is why I kind of stacked it up with a couple extra prospects there too as well. It is clear that Zach Geloff is going to be coming back from injury, from surgery. He'll be in time. He'll be back in time for spring training and be in the running, if he's with the A's, to be the everyday second baseman. But I did want to sweeten the deal a little bit just in case there are some injury setbacks there. But I do think Geloff is someone that has the potential, but also may not pan out. And I do think sometimes going to a new scenery, a very hitter-friendly environment in Cincinnati could wake him up and hopefully get him moving in the right direction because the talent is there. It's just been a little bit too inconsistent. And on the A side of things, I do think they have some good depth. They have some pieces that I like in terms of guys that could be the everyday second baseman. Now, I think that is potentially going to be Max Muncy's spot, and then you have Hernandez at third. But they also may explore the free agent second base market with guys like Willie Castro and Gleyber Torres even are going to be available. So you wonder what that's going to look like. I do think there are alternative options that if you do move off of Geloff here, it's not going to be the end of the world. I just do think that the A's have a ton of young outfield depth, and it just hasn't come all together for J.J. Bleday. While you do still see the power stroke is there, and it does come in bunches, and he does play a solid corner outfield and can play center field too as well, I do think he would be more beneficial on a team like the Reds that would be dying for a left-handed bat. I just don't see him having an everyday role with this A's club in 2026, especially with where the roster is at now. With the emergence of Tyler Soderstrom in left field, being nominated for a Gold Glove seems like he's going to have left field on lock, having Lawrence Butler in right, and then Denzel Clark in center field with Brett Rooker DHing. You got Carlos Cortez as the 4th outfielder. So I just think, and then you got your prospects coming too as well. So I just think there is a whole logjam there. I just don't think there's enough time for Bleday to prove that he deserves one of those spots. And but I do think he would be a big boost to that Reds lineup. So I do think he would be the main major league bat to really attract this deal to the Reds front office for sure. And then when you're landing or attempting to land a top arm like Greene, still so young in his career, you are going to have to give up some of your top prospects. So In this trade, I didn't want to give up any of the arms. I do think that is more important to the A's. Guys like Jamie Arnold and Gage Jump. I don't think you're going to swap a young arm for a little bit older but young arm. I think it kind of defeats the purpose. And if you're the A's, you're trying to bolster a weakness and turn it into a strength. And I do think by landing Greene into your starting rotation, that becomes much stronger than it was the day before. A lot of length there, and then you end up having Morales and Lopez as your 4 and 5. That is a deadly rotation indeed. But I do think here, with that being said, someone like a Henry Bolt, another outfielder, like I said, he's one of those prospects that's coming up. May see him in 2026, but I do think that's someone that probably will start in AAA, but could end up on a team like the Reds in this trade and potentially land an opening day roster spot. You just never know. Like I said, I think the Reds are a team that is hurting for offensive production, so you never know. You get a spark from someone like Bolt, who does have a ton of upside, and believe he could be the all-around player that they're looking for, so I do think that would be rather attractive in this deal. Then you get a corner third baseman power bat in Tommy White, the number 7 prospect, and Mason Barnett, the number 9 prospect. So in terms of Barnett, I don't think that's anything flashy jumping off the page, but that's just an arm to add some depth to the Reds to be able to replace the hole being left by Greene. Now, I do know they have a slew of arms, but I'm sure they're going to have a couple guys vying for that empty rotation slot in this scenario. So that's why we threw Barnett in there. And then Tommy White, I just think, again, I think you're trying to make this trade package as attractive as you can, and trying to give the Reds bats, because that is what they're looking for. And then in this situation, the A's are going to be significantly stronger in the current and the long term by landing a guy like Greene. So with that, that would end up the rotation looking like Hunter Greene, Luis Severino, Jeffrey Springs, Luis Morales, and Jacob Lopez. Pretty solid, if you ask me. And obviously that's, all injuries aside, going from pole to pole, scot-free. Pipe dream, but wanted to share this one model because how this trade could get pulled off. Not saying that there's a high percentage that this could get done, but it's not 0%. So I would love to see the A's make a push here. I know they're going to have tons of other teams in on this activity. I'm sure that your bigger markets like the Yankees and Dodgers will get involved, and probably the Mets as well. But really excited to see if a team like the A's could line up. They are friendly trade partners. The A's sent Miguel Andujar to Cincinnati for a prospect in return. So there are some positive trade relations that have gone on over the last calendar year. This would be a trade of bigger magnitude, but it's good to know that there is that relationship and line of communication there. So let's see what happens. And this would be a trade that would get pulled off later in the offseason, right around December when the winter meetings are going on. That's when those bigger deals usually get announced and completed, because there's a lot of networking that goes down during those winter meetings and need to iron out contract deals and give plenty of time for teams to field their calls and see which one will help move your team in the right direction. So that's a very intriguing one. Would love to see him end up in the green and gold. That would make 2026 even more enjoyable and excitable to await. All right, before we get to the back half of our show, we're going to take a quick break, just do a quick ad read for the Holiday Inn Sacramento Downtown Arena. We appreciate them playing host to us during one of our Sacramento content trips before an A's game. We got to feature the Holiday Inn as a destination place to stay when visiting Sacramento to see the A's, or just checking in the sights and sounds of the capital city for a weekend or for however long you are in town. So we will do a quick ad read for them and then get back for the rest of the show. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this. Stay at our downtown Sacramento hotel. Stay, work, and play at Holiday Inn Sacramento Downtown Arena, near the shopping, dining, and entertainment of the historic Old Sacramento waterfront. A 15-minute drive from Sacramento International Airport, our downtown hotel is a few blocks from the Golden One Center and Downtown Commons, and a short walk from the California State Capitol and Safe Credit Union Convention Center. Host meetings and events in our boardrooms and ballrooms, work out in our fitness center, and take a dip in our rooftop pool. Enjoy breakfast at Cypress Grill or gather with friends and colleagues for dinner and drinks. Unwind in our comfortable rooms and suites with amenities and cityscape views. We are the ideal choice for your next Sacramento adventure. Okay, let's have some fun. Let's get in the spirit of the World Series. The A's aren't in it this year. We'll see if they make a run and get to it next year. Now, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves. They're probably a few years away from that, but hey, crazier things have happened. Mock World Series scenario, A's, Dodgers. We're going to get in the spirit of it. We're going to break it down, do a preview as if we are getting ready for Game 1 tonight. Obviously, if you are following along, the World Series is taking place between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Los Angeles Dodgers. This series is tied at 1 apiece. If you're intrigued, Game 3 is tonight, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific. It's a good pitching matchup. Future Hall of Famer Max Scherzer going for the Blue Jays, going up against Tyler Glasnow of the Dodgers. It'll be a good one. You won't want to miss it. But let's get back to this. A's, Dodgers. So let's break it down let's just sit back, relax, enjoy. Let it, maybe in the way we're speaking it into existence for the near future. But enjoy this scenario and just let your imagination run wild. A's, Dodgers, World Series this year. These two teams have met in the World Series 2 times previously. In 1974 and 1988, with the Dodgers being victorious in both matchups. Dodgers are coming in winners of the National League pennant, and the A's in this scenario win the American League pennant for the first time since 1990 when they lost the World Series to the Cincinnati Reds in 4 games. So now we did a little bit of roster construction. So we broke it down into 13 position players and 13 bullpen arms. So to begin, we wanted to carry 2 catchers. So starting catcher will be Shea Langoliers, being backed up by Willie McIver. We're going to have Nick Kurtz at first base, Zach Geloff at second, We are going to have Dal Hernandez at second base, Jacob Wilson at shortstop, Max Muncy at third. Okay, let's scratch that. Okay, start from here. Roster is based off those that were actually part of the 2025 team, and we broke it down to 13 position players and 13 pitchers since you are allotted 26 players on your World Series roster. So we went with 2 catchers. We wanted to go with 2 catchers just in case anything happens. We're going with Shea Langoliers and being backed up by Willie McIver. We got Nick Kurtz at first base. We got Max Muncy at second. Jacob Wilson at short, Dal Hernandez at third, Brent Rooker, designated hitter, Lawrence Butler in right, Denzel Clark in center, Tyler Soderstrom in left, and then filling in the rest of the position players, we got Carlos Cortez, Zach Geloff, and Max Schumann. Now on the pitching side of things, we got Luis Severino, Jeffrey Springs, Luis Morales, and Jacob Lopez as your 4 starters. And out of the bullpen, we went with JT Ginn to be the innings eater, Hogan Harris, Tyler Ferguson, Justin Sterner, Elvis Alvarado, Michael Kelly, Sean Newcomb, Jack Perkins, and Mitch Spence. And now, here are your pitching matchups for the 7-game series. In this scenario, we decided that the Los Angeles Dodgers would have the better record and would have home field advantage throughout. So the first 2 games would be in Los Angeles. The next 3 would be in Sacramento, followed up by the final 2 in Los Angeles if necessary. So in the World Series, it is the best of 7, the first team to win 4 games. So that is how it all breaks down. Pitching matchups would look like, this is just based on strategy. We'll explain it after. Jeffrey Springs getting the ball in Game 1, going up against Blake Snell, a lefty duel right there. Game 2, Luis Severino going up against Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Game 3, now we're switching it to Sacramento. Tyler Glasnow getting the ball for the Dodgers, going up against Luis Morales. Game 4 would be Shohei Ohtani going up against Jacob Lopez. Game 5, also in Sacramento, Blake Snell going up against Jeffrey Springs. And then Game 6 and 7 would be back in LA. Luis Severino going up against Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And Game 7 would be for all the marbles, Luis Morales going up against Tyler Glasnow. Those would be some fun pitching matchups, I'm not going to lie. Not sure how it would go, but it is interesting on paper. So the reason for the change of strategy this year, Luis Severino was the ace. In this situation, I want to utilize his strengths. And it's pretty clear-cut and dry. He was a significantly better pitcher away from Sutter Health Park on the road than he was at home. So in this scenario, if he starts Game 2 on the road, he'll also get the opportunity to start Game 6 on the road, just utilizing a little tweak there so that you have him at his best. He seemed to be really more comfortable away from home, so why not have that in your corner? Some other series keys to look out for would be the lefty lane out of the bullpen. So that's why we had Hogan Harris and Sean Newcomb here in this situation. Those would be the two guys mainly tasked to go get Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, and Max Muncy. No easy task indeed, but I do think they would be up for the challenge. Some you would have to keep your eye on. And this could be an opportunity. While I do think the Dodgers starting pitching staff as a whole has the edge over the A's starting pitching staff, but I do believe there is a lane, especially how the A's performed over the second half of their season, as compared to if you look at the numbers of the Dodgers, who were one of the worst bullpens in the second half of the season, that there is that possibility. While, yes, the Dodgers have that postseason experience, but there is a world that this conglomerate of the A's bullpen could outperform them, and that could be a big turning point in this series, especially if the A's are able to grind out at-bats and get these starters out of the game sooner rather than later. You wonder if you get in that Dodgers bullpen, they may be exposed. While I do think the A's have done a pretty good job of cleaning up, even if a starter couldn't go very deep in a game, they would do a good job keeping the opposing offense at bay and giving their offense an opportunity to swing their way back into the game. Defense needs to be absolutely crisp in this scenario against the team in LA. They do the fundamentals, and they thrive off gaining momentum off and capitalizing off their opponent's mistakes. You saw it in the 2024 World Series against the Yankees. You saw it when the Phillies were kicking it around a little bit. Don't give the Dodgers any opportunity. If they're going to beat you, let them beat you outright. But if not, you give yourself an opportunity to be competitive in these games. All right, now we compiled some lineups. We're pretty consistent with having the same guys in the order, basically, but just kind of shifted around the order a little bit. We're just playing to the strengths of the splits and going from there. So the lineup that we came up with against left-handed pitchers, so this would be against a guy like Blake Snell. We went with Jacob Wilson leading off at shortstop, Nick Kurtz in the 2-hole at first base. Batting third would be the designated hitter, Brent Rooker. Batting fourth would be the catcher, Shea Langoliers. Batting fifth, the left fielder, Tyler Soderstrom. Batting sixth, the second baseman, Max Muncy. Batting seventh, the right fielder, Lawrence Butler. And batting eighth, the third baseman, Darryl Hernandez. And in the 9-hole, the center fielder, Denzel Clark. And then the lineup we came up with against right-handed pitchers, we went leading off Lawrence Butler in right field. Just really want to utilize that 20-20 speed and be able to get guys into scoring position. Other ways besides just swinging and moving guys over. I would love to utilize the speed threat. In the 2-hole, Jacob Wilson, he's at short. Batting third, the first baseman, Nick Kurtz. Batting fourth, the designated hitter, Brent Rooker. In the 5-hole, left fielder, Tyler Soderstrom. Batting sixth, the catcher, Shea Langoliers. Batting seventh, the second baseman, Max Muncy. Batting eighth, the third baseman, Darryl Hernandez. And batting ninth, the center fielder, Denzel Clark. Like I mentioned, the bench would be compiled of catcher, Willie McIver, outfielder, Carlos Cortez, second baseman, Zach Geloff, and utility man, Max Schumann. So on this mock World Series, just wanted to have some fun with it and see how these two teams would match up, at least on paper. I do think it's definitely advantage Dodgers. They have the postseason experience. They have more lineup depth. But I will say here, and I do think the Dodgers starting rotation is stronger than all, to be honest. They're essentially an all-star team brought together, it seems like. But in terms of bullpens, I think it's a coin toss there. I guess give the slight edge to the Dodgers, but I wouldn't be surprised if in this scenario the A's bullpen would outperform them, especially from what we saw July 31st and on. But I would love to see the fight of this A's team in this World Series. I would predict that the Dodgers would win the series in 5. I could see the A's grabbing one. One of those games in Sacramento, you never know. The ball starts flying. Anything can happen. But I do like the way they have a willingness to go the opposite field and definitely cut down on the strikeouts in the second half of the season. Now, I do think that's an area they still need to grow. In this scenario, I guess they would have figured it out a little bit more, having more of an approach, working their way on base a little bit more, because I do think stepping away from this, that is their next level of growth, is that if we see a contagious lineup having a consistent, patient approach, making the opposition work a little bit harder. You saw it at times this year, and especially early in the year, and it went away in the middle of the year and came back at the end. Would love to see that lineup continuity be consistent throughout. And that's what you see from the Dodgers. But definitely had fun with this mock World Series scenario. I do think, looking at these lineups, I do like where this A's lineup is going to be in 2026. And, this isn't the finished product. We'll see if they bring in anybody via the trade or free agency. But yeah, I definitely am intrigued by these starting pitching matchups, especially loving. I do think Springs would absolutely compete against Snell. I love the way this lines up with Severino getting 2 road starts, but then seeing Luis Morales in the bright lights and just letting the national audience get to see how special this kid really can be. I do think he'd be all for the moment and would love in this scenario if we got to a Game 7 and it was on the shoulders of rookie right-handed Luis Morales. That would be absolutely something. Not sure how it would go. I know that Dodgers crowd could get raucous, but he does seem to have that cool, calm demeanor. We were treated to seeing Morales in a playoff-like atmosphere in August up at T-Mobile Park in Seattle, and he handled his own, retiring the first 15 batters he faced. So didn't seem he didn't seem rattled by it at all. So that's definitely a good quality to have in a young, talented arm. When that postseason time comes, I'm sure those nerves will be there, but I think on the outside he'll be able to remain reserved. And I do think once you get a couple innings under your belt, you settle in and go from there and let your play do the talking. But yeah, so that's a wrap on our show of A's Day today. Just wanted to keep it pretty tight and concise and wanted to have a little bit of fun today. So on today's show, we took a look at what a trade with Hunter Greene would look like. That would be a big fish that they would be able to haul into Sacramento, but this would really make this A's team an immediate postseason contender. It always seems like, or lately it seems like they're trending in that direction, but this would absolutely put them firmly in that conversation. I mean, the rotation would have so much depth. Yes, you're going to have to give up a haul, but you're going to have to give up some to get some in return. I do think this would be a huge boost to this rotation. I do think it would be a huge boost to team morale as a whole. Those guys in the clubhouse believe. And if they bring in a guy like this, that's going to speak volumes to the guys in the clubhouse, because now they'll start building that trust with the front office and baseball operations that they believe in this team too as well. So there could be a lot of good proof here. There could be a lot of good vibes sent into the stratosphere heading into 2026. We'll see if this actually happens, but we gave our thoughts here. We broke down a trade scenario. Like we mentioned, don't think this is likely to happen. It's a pipeline dream. There's going to be a ton of suitors for his services in terms of a trade, but you never know. You never know what could happen. And then on the back half of today's show, we did a mock World Series scenarios if the A's were taking on the Dodgers in this year's World Series. We're in the World Series spirit. We're baseball fans. We're very invested in enjoying the Jays Dodgers. So we wanted to create a scenario, a hypothetical, as if the A's were competing. And we liked some of what we saw. Do think that it's advantage Dodgers for sure. But you never know once the two teams play ball between the lines. But just had a little fun activity there. We will be back again on Friday behind the mic. We are going to do the next segment of this player in A's history, and I apologize. We selected the next player off camera. Not really sure where the disconnect there is. My apologies. So just staying true to the integrity of the hat. Didn't want to do it on camera and have it be the second choice. So we ended up going with we selected the 1990s. So Friday's show, enjoy. It's going to be an A's player from the 1990s that played during that decade. We'll be sure to post on social media. Be sure to check it out. The last one we did, we went back to the 1920s, and we're talking all about A's legend and and Hall of Famer and one of the greatest baseball players of all time in Jimmy Fox. We're excited to talk about another great that played during the 90s for the A's, so that'll be a fun, exciting way to kick off the weekend. And then we are going to do a little update, A's offseason activities. So here at A's Day, we follow all the A's on Instagram, whoever has social media. So Friday, we'll have a fun activity and let you know if any of the players are and what they're off to during their off-season downtime away from baseball. And then we'll let you know any other A's occurrences in the news. If there's anything that is brought across our table, we'll share it with you, the lovely audience. That's all I got for today. Appreciate each and every one of you kicking off your week once again with us here at A's Day. I'm your host, Joe Grado. Thank you very much for continuing to listen and support us. We hope you have a great week. We can't wait to be here at the end of it, back behind the mic, talking everything A's baseball. Have a good week, everyone. Holy Toledo. Let's go A's.